Rockstar hasn't built a city from scratch in over a decade, and when they finally show you what they've been doing all this time, you understand why it took so long. I have spent the last few weeks cross-referencing every official screenshot, every frame from the two trailers, and every discovery from the community mapping project with the real Miami locations that Rockstar is drawing inspiration from. And what I have found is not a video game city. It is an obsessive reconstruction, neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street, of one of the strangest, most criminal, and most photogenic cities in the United States. There are entire districts that almost no one is talking about. There are clues hidden in signs that last half a second on screen. And there is a nod to a legendary character from the saga that, if confirmed, will make more than one person jump off the couch. Everything I am going to tell you comes from official material, the trailers, the Rockstar website, and the community's work. And when something is my own speculation or an unconfirmed rumor, I will tell you clearly, because that is how this channel works. That said, let's explore all of Vice City from end to end. Before we start, an honest warning. The game is not out yet. It comes out on November 19th, 2026. That is confirmed by Rockstar, and anything can change between now and the launch. But the point of this tour isn't to guess the future. Is to show you exactly what Rockstar is looking at when they design each area, so that when you step into the city in November, you'll know how to read it the way they do. Rockstar's own website describes it with a phrase that sums up the whole tone. We are a long way from the 80s, but Vice City remains America's capital of sun and fun. The glamour, the dealing, and the greed of the entire country captured in a single city. And to keep from getting lost, we will go by regions. First, the Barrier Island with its beaches, then the financial district, next the cultural neighborhoods surrounding the core, later the wealthy southern area, and finally the southern tip of the map, where an entire city is hidden that Rockstar has not yet officially shown. We start where all the Miami imagery begins, the Barrier Island. In real life, the beaches run the entire length of the island, from South Beach in the south all the way to the north. And the crown jewel is Ocean Drive, which in the game belongs to the Ocean Beach area. Ocean Drive is what comes to mind when you think of Miami. A strip of Art Deco hotels painted in pastel tones, vertical neon lights brightening the night, and more supercars than you can count. The funny thing is that this architecture is from the 30s and 40s, and the real city has preserved over 800 unique buildings with their curved corners, porthole windows, and those neon spines that light up the entire street when the sun goes down. There is no other place in the world that looks like Ocean Drive. And judging by the screenshots, Rockstar is recreating it down to the last detail. The street itself is a two-lane road that barely functions as a highway because everyone goes slow, just looking. By day, it is a parade of classic and exotic rental cars, a moving auto show. On the hotel sidewalk, outdoor cafes with tourists paying ransom prices for cocktails. Almost always music coming from someplace, and in between, skaters, photographers, influencers, people walking dogs. Across the way, on the ocean side, is the park that acts as a border between the street and the sand. That is where Rockstar placed the outdoor gym where we see Jason lifting weights in the second trailer. In the real park, there are street vendors offering coconuts and water, rental booths for jet skis and paddle boards, and then the beach with everything that entails. And here comes the first detail that I find incredible. In the beach shots, you can see a huge jump in the NPC population. Not just in quantity, which are literally hundreds, but in variety. All different, all doing things, sunbathing, running, throwing a ball, and even scanning the sand with metal detectors. The million-dollar question, and this is speculation because nothing is confirmed regarding mechanics, is whether we will be able to participate in those activities or if they are just for atmosphere. Either way, the immersion is going to be on another level. And when the day fades, the area changes its skin, the beach empties, the skaters disappear, and Ocean Drive becomes a neon corridor full of clubs, with thousands of people looking for a drink and probably a bad decision. Rockstar understands that atmosphere perfectly, because in some screenshots, you can already see the police dealing with NPCs who have had one too many. One block inland is the avenue that acts as the hard-working backbone of the area. By day, supermarkets and normal shops. By night, the corridor of bars and clubs parallel to Ocean Drive, which has historically had a reputation for shady deals and robberies after midnight. And tucked in the middle of all this, there is a huge sports park with tennis courts, soccer fields, basketball, a competition pool, and even a dog park. We know there will be NPCs playing basketball and throwing balls, and dogs and tennis already existed in Grand Theft Auto 5, so an area like this could feel very alive. Again, whether they let us participate is still an unknown. Oh, and a fact that is confirmed by the website itself. Somewhere in Ocean Beach will be the personal garage with a gun locker and a fence for stolen goods that comes with the Vice City Vintage Pack. And that is where Rockstar has parked the 55 Steiner Boppy for those who pre-order the game. Now, the real history of this area is pure gold for understanding what kind of game awaits us. Because South Beach, before 1984, was practically a vacant lot, a ruined neighborhood of decrepit buildings inhabited by retirees. Nobody went there on vacation. And then came Miami Vice, the show, and the production team chose that area precisely because it was run down enough to look dangerous. The show's aesthetic became one of the most imitated in television history. Then came the real estate developers, and in a decade, the poverty that had made the neighborhood useful as a set was pushed out by checkbooks. But beneath all that, cocaine money flowed through those streets the whole time. At the peak of the Medellin cartel's operation in Miami, it has been estimated that a huge part of the city's economy, some say a third, came directly from drug trafficking. And pop culture is literally embedded in the asphalt. The building on Ocean Drive, where the infamous chainsaw scene from Scarface was filmed, is a pharmacy today. And 1 block away, Gianni Versace was shot to death on the steps of his own home in July of 1997. Today, it is a luxury hotel, and those steps are a selfie spot. Rockstar, by the way, seems to have noticed even that, because in one of the screenshots, you can see stains on some steps next to a metal gate that suspiciously recall that story. The latter is my own take, for the record. If you head north along the coastal avenue, the character changes again. Boutique hotels give way to gigantic resorts that stack rooms facing the sea, with several pools, private beach clubs, and nightclubs that rake in millions in a single weekend. In the game, that middle area will be called Washington Beach, and we know this from the official website because that is where the shit Susqualo will be docked if you have the Ultimate Edition. Further north, in reality, is the municipality where the tragedy of the collapse of a 12-story residential building occurred in the middle of the night in June of 2021, with 98 victims. I highly doubt Rockstar will touch something so sensitive, but that is the context of the area. And continuing further up, you reach the territory of absolute luxury. 5-star hotels and an open-air shopping mall considered one of the most profitable in the world for its size, with every luxury brand you can think of tucked into a garden with fountains and palm trees. Here I connect with a rumor that has been circulating for a while. It is said that Grand Theft Auto 6 will have over 700 buildings with accessible interiors. I remain skeptical of that figure. There is nothing official, but if it were true, a place like that would be the natural destination to blow the money from the last mission. And just to the north, across the canal, Florida gets weird again, because in real life, there is a nudist beach there that gets thousands of visitors on good days. Rockstar has never shied away from nudity in their games, and personally, I would find it hilarious if they trolled the community by filling their version of that beach with exactly the kind of bather nobody wants to see. We shall see. And let's not forget the water, because in Miami, entire neighborhoods are floating. The city's nautical culture is one of the most distinct subcultures in North America, and the intracoastal waterway that runs along the island is a floating neighborhood of mega yachts, fishing boats, and everything in between. There are restaurants with more boat slips than parking spaces. My bet, and it is a bet, is that the marinas and properties with docks will have a huge role in this game, especially in the bay between the island and the city. And what does all this mean for Grand Theft Auto 6? That this is going to be one of the liveliest areas in all of Leonida. Side missions in a place like this write themselves. A club owner who needs to get a celebrity who is half dead from an overdose out before they kick the bucket in the VIP area. A photographer who caught a rich guy with the wrong person. And now you have to make the photo disappear, and the photographer too. The possibilities are endless. Let's cross the bay now, because the economic heart of this city beats in the center. The Community Mapping Project has identified that the area equivalent to Miami's financial district will be called Tiesta, and the name appears on a traffic sign in the aerial shot of downtown. And here, Rockstar has done their homework in a way I love. The word comes from an extinct indigenous language of South Florida from about 2,000 years ago, and historians suggest it referred to the central village where the tribal chief resided. With Tiesta being the financial hub of Vice City, the name is a perfect fit. The real district is one of the largest international banking centers in the United States and the preferred address for anyone moving serious money between the country and Latin America. Glass towers to the water's edge, suits lining up at coffee shops, luxury dealerships, private banking, and jewelry stores with armed security at the door. Off the coast is a small artificial island of luxury apartments accessible by a single road, which in the game will be called Tiesta Key. And in true Rockstar fashion, I bet you anything, and this is speculation, that those penthouses will be purchasable in story mode, in online, or both. In the aerial shot of downtown, there is a lot to break down. In the center of the frame is the indoor stadium, Rockstar's version of the arena where the Miami basketball team plays, renamed here as the home of the Narcos. It is still unclear if there will be sporting events in GTA 6, but with that branding and the square footage the building occupies, I find it hard to believe Rockstar won't use it. A simulated team whose games you could watch on television or in person would be a dream, but to be honest, I find it unlikely. Next to it is the Performing Arts Center, whose real-life equivalent is one of the largest complexes of its kind in the world, with nearly 400 shows a year. And here is a memory for the veterans. In Grand Theft Auto 4, there were comedy clubs with stand-up routines from real comedians. It would be awesome if Rockstar brought back that idea with live in-game performances, like the digital concerts that are already common in other titles. Nothing is confirmed, but the infrastructure is there, drawn on the map. You can also make out what looks like their version of the coastal market, complete with a giant Ferris wheel, which seems to be something similar to the pier in GTA 5, but with more detail and probably several interactive shops. There was a debate in the community about that Ferris wheel because, in a night shot, it does not cast a reflection on the water, and the theory that convinces me most is that moving lights are much more expensive to reflect in real time than static ones, so it may simply be a console power limit at certain distances. Actually, in another shot, the reflection is visible. In the background of that same image, you can see the port cranes and a gigantic cruise ship. It is the Vice City port, confirmed on Rockstar's own website as the cruise capital of the world, just like its real-life equivalent, which handles more cruise passengers than any other port on the planet. Now, a detail that the community has spotted. That cruise ship appears in the exact same position in different official materials, which could indicate that it is a fixed element of the map. We do not know for sure. It is possible that all that footage was captured at the same time, but it is looking worse and worse for those of us who dreamed of captaining one of those monsters. In the second trailer, we also see Jason and Lucia at a club called 919, which is Rockstar's version of Miami's most infamous club, one that operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, half nightclub, half strip club, with aerial acrobatics, a hydraulic stage, and an electronic room all running at once. The fact that Rockstar chose to recreate that exact place says a lot about the nocturnal tone they are aiming for. And running through the whole district is the detail that has me rubbing my hands together. The automated, elevated train. In reality, it is a rail circuit suspended several meters above the street. It is free, connecting the stadium, the coastal market, the shopping mall, and the financial core in a continuous loop with trains passing every little more than a minute. As a cinematic getaway tool, it is a gift wrapped with a bow. And then there is the river, the Vice River, the Miami version of the river, which cuts through the southern edge of downtown and is one of the waterways with the most criminal history in the city. During the Prohibition era, rum runners and coast guards exchanged gunfire in its waters more than once. In the 70s and 80s, it was the best place to unload cocaine away from the eyes of the port. And in July of 1985, something happened that sounds like a Rockstar script, but it is documented history. A group of Miami police officers in uniform raided a fishing boat that was unloading hundreds of kilos of cocaine valued at about $10 million at the time. The traffickers thought it was a legitimate raid until one of the officers shouted the order to kill them, and they realized it was a robbery disguised as a police operation. The group had been systematically stealing drugs and money for over a year, and the scandal ended with about 20 officers convicted and dozens more suspended or fired. This is Miami. Rockstar does not need to invent anything, just recreate it. But be careful, because everything we have seen so far is just the postcard. Luxury, beaches, glass towers. And that is not Miami, or at least it is not most of Miami. Around the center is a constellation of neighborhoods with their own cultures, less shiny and much more authentic, and Rockstar is putting them into the game with a level of care I honestly did not expect. Let us start with Little Cuba, the version of the heart of the Cuban exile that formed after Castro came to power in 1959. A neighborhood that in a decade became overwhelmingly Cuban and has stayed that way. The Rockstar website specifically mentions the bustling bakeries of Little Cuba, and that detail feels like a statement of intent. They're not just decorating, they're building cultural identity, neighborhood by neighborhood. In the real-life reference, you have the park where seniors have spent decades playing dominoes and arguing about politics. The Ventanitas, where Cuban coffee is served through an opening in the wall, cigar rollers, and flags in the shop windows. And here I'll share a theory of mine. I emphasize mine. In one of Raul Bautista's screenshots on a boat, you can see a mug with a Cuban flag behind him. Could the character have a connection to Little Cuba? Could his hideout in that area be a mission hub? Nothing is official, but the detail is there, and Rockstar doesn't place mugs at random. Right next door is Rockridge, and the name is another example of homework well done. The real neighborhood was advertised in the early 20th century as a beautiful limestone ridge above the river, and Rockstar has compressed that idea into a single word. It is the quieter, residential half of the Cuban district, with low-rise apartments, Catholic altars in the gardens, salsa playing from the houses, and even roosters loose in the yards. And in Rockridge is Flea Field, the Vice City Mamba Stadium, confirmed thanks to the mapping project. Rockstar has turned the real baseball stadium into a football one, with the classic Flecka Bank as a sponsor and the Mambas connecting to GTA Online. It might just be set dressing, but it is one of the strongest signs that the sports side of Vice City is getting real attention. And now we reach my favorite discovery of this entire analysis. To the north is a version of Little Haiti, and this is where Rockstar has done something that very few people are talking about. In the second trailer, as Jason passes by a police checkpoint, you can read text painted on the walls in Haitian Creole. Real Creole, with phrases that translate to "in memory" and "love" next to the Haitian flag painted on the facade. They have built their version of the neighborhood in the authentic language, with authentic cultural markers baked directly into the environment. And there is more. In another shot from the trailer, a frame that lasts a heartbeat, 3 guys who look like trouble appear. And if you freeze the exact frame and zoom in on the background, there is a community bulletin board with flyers. One advertises a Caribbean market at La Pearl, and on another you can make out something like "Our Neighborhood, Not Stockyard." Remember that name, Stockyard, because we will come back to it. But the community's interpretation, which I share, is that this sign speaks of neighborhood resistance against the gentrification of the area next door. A social protest sign hidden in a half-second frame. That is the level. And who is in charge of that neighborhood? This is where the 2022 leak comes in, the one with the debug code, which mentioned meetings and locations tagged with a gang name, Sampo San. In Creole, San means blood, blood for blood. And once you know that, the clues in the official material become obvious. The guy in the foreground with a tattoo on his chest that says Perla, the same name on the flyers, on the board, and spray painted on the elevated subway columns. La Pearl, the Pearl, is almost certainly the name of the neighborhood, and it makes historical sense because Haiti was known as the Pearl of the Antilles back in the day, the most profitable colony in the entire Western Hemisphere. The gang is fictional, obviously, but it could be inspired. And this is a connection made by the community, not something confirmed. It refers to a real Haitian criminal organization born in Miami in the early 90s as a self-defense group, which evolved into one of the most feared in Florida, with boat thefts on the Miami River itself and cocaine trafficking for Colombian cartels included in its resume. And if you want a movie reference to imagine how Rockstar might use all this, in Bad Boys 2, there is a fictional Haitian gang with a major role, and Rockstar is famous for building entire missions based on movie scenes. Given how often these people appear in official screenshots, it smells like La Pearl is going to be one of the most hostile neighborhoods on the map, with gang encounters, territorial missions, and likely trouble if you wander where you shouldn't. East of La Pearl would be Crosstown, which we believe is the version of the neighborhood that in the 40s and 50s was called the Harlem of the South. The cultural heart of Miami's black community, where legends like Ella Fitzgerald, Count Basie, Nina Simone, or Ray Charles performed, with clubs operating 7 nights a week. Until in 1965, the state of Florida decided to run an interstate highway right through the middle, destroying thousands of homes and displacing tens of thousands of residents in just a few years. The name Crosstown, with a highway literally crossing through it, is a lesson that hurts because of how accurate it is. And Rockstar has built the musical legacy directly into the game. There is the Jack of Hearts, Booby Ike's Club, with the only Row record studio operating in the same building or very close by, where Drecon Priest and the Real Dimers are producing music and almost certainly asking us for shady favors. The club has a very clear real-life inspiration. One of the most famous strip clubs in Miami history, a mandatory stop for artists and athletes for years, to the point that if you compare the logos, they are practically identical. And Booby Ike himself is a gold mine. Rockstar describes him on their official website as a Vice City legend who turned the street into a legitimate empire, with a quote on the page itself that basically says, "The club money pays for the studio, and the drug money pays for everything." Now listen to this. In the true history of Miami, there existed one of the most powerful drug trafficking organizations in the city, led by a man whose nickname was precisely Booby. They controlled a huge portion of the county's cocaine and crack distribution and fell in one of the biggest anti-drug judicial proceedings in South Florida. Coincidence in the name? I don't believe in those coincidences when we're talking about Rockstar. Miami has a tradition of musical empires born on the street, from the bass sound of the 80s to today's superstars, and Booby Ike, with his record label, smells like that same story with a more criminal background. The triangle between Booby, Dracon, and the real Dimers reeks of a power struggle at some point in the plot, and Jason and Lucia are going to be in the middle of it. That last part is my theory, but you can see it coming. To the northeast is the famous Stockyard, the Wingwood version, and now you will understand the protest sign at La Perle. The real neighborhood was born as a textile and industrial district, one of the largest garment centers in the United States. And in the early 2000s, artists started moving into those cheap warehouses. Then a promoter invited world-famous graffiti artists to paint the warehouse walls, and it just blew up. The murals attracted galleries, the galleries restaurants, the restaurants money, and the money bought the same warehouses the artists had painted. In 15 years, it went from a forgotten industrial neighborhood to one of the most photographed districts in the world. In the game captures, you can see the murals covering the warehouses on both sides of the street. And thanks to the web, we know two confirmed things. The clothing store Stock 305 will be in Stockyard, and with the Ultimate Edition, we will have access to an exclusive tattoo parlor with over 50 designs for Jason and Lucia. My take on the area, and it is just a take, is that Stockyard will be more of a social and collectibles district than one for shootouts. Murals to find, photo opportunities if that mechanic exists, and the type of trendy spot Rockstar loves to use as a meeting point. Nearby is another small district we barely know anything about, provisionally labeled by the community as Bohemia, based on the Miami area, where big luxury brands have built individual buildings that are almost architectural sculptures. And at the opposite end of the spectrum is one of the craziest names on the entire map, Tishawaka. If I describe a real Florida neighborhood with architecture inspired by Islam, mosques with minarets, and streets with names taken from 1001 Nights, you would think I'm already talking about Rockstar's parody. Well, no, it exists. It is called Opalaka. It was designed in 1926 by a developer fascinated by Arab aesthetics. It became a source of civic pride with guided tours, and then the money ran out, corruption set in, federal investigations reached the municipal government, and what remained were the buildings and their stories. The original name in the indigenous language was very long and meant something like Great Island covered in trees and swamps. Rockstar simply trimmed the words from the beginning and the end, and their website confirms that the game version has a flea market for counterfeit brands, a direct reference to one of the largest flea markets in the southeastern United States that exists in the real location. For me, that flea market is the playable point of interest, a dense space crowded with vendors that smells like a place to buy and sell stolen goods from the other side of the map. Little Cuba, Rockridge, La Perle, Crosstown, Stockyard, Bohemia, Tishawaka, and a couple more that the community is still finishing locating. Neighborhoods with their own identity, their own history, and their own role. And then there is the South, where the city slows down, towers give way to tree-lined streets, and some of the most expensive properties in the country appear. The area we believe will be called Peacock Bay covers the district of the oldest and wealthiest neighborhoods in Miami, including the oldest of all, inhabited even before the city officially existed in 1896. There is the Renaissance Palace, built in 1916 with European gardens and a private dock, the setting for filming Scarface and Miami Vice. Florida does not need screenwriters, and in the Bay, the islands. The one with a 30-meter commemorative obelisk already confirmed because it is seen in both the official art and the trailers. The Venetian Islands connected by a toll causeway, which appear in day and night shots with their yachts moored. The actual island, where about 80 obscenely rich people live, with armed boat patrols, their own private police, and a bridge that controls the island itself, where the average price of a house exceeds $100 million, and where names like Bezos or Zuckerberg have bought properties. And the chain of islands on the main causeway, where in the cocaine era, some mansions were bought through shell companies linked to people like Pablo Escobar. One of them has celebrity status, with about 30 mansions on a single circular street. And here comes the moment I promised you at the beginning, so pay attention. That island already existed in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, the 2002 version, under the name Starfish Island, and it held the mansion that Tommy Vercetti took from Ricardo Diaz, which after the mission with Lance Vance was renamed Vercetti Estate. Well, in the recent pre-order material, there are two nods to Tommy. One is a weapon camo that clearly recalls his iconic shirt, and the other, exclusive to the Ultimate Edition, is a set of revolvers that, according to the literal text on the official GTA 6 website, come from the Vercetti estate. That does not confirm that Tommy's mansion is on the new map. And we must remember that Rockstar separates the 3D era and the HD era universes and has never officially mixed them. but it is a direct reference to a physical location from the original Vice City in official material for the new game. It is either pure fan service or the most delicious breadcrumb Rockstar has dropped in years. I have my bet placed, the southern end remains, and there is something juicy here. The community spotted a name in the 2022 Leaks event list, Hamlet, and we could not place it until the second trailer showed in its opening shot a road sign pointing north on Highway 1, exactly where in real life that road takes you to the city of Homestead. And this is interesting because Homestead is not a small town. It has about 87,000 inhabitants, more than 10 times the population of the town Ambrosia is based on, plus a NASCAR circuit and a historic center with an old theater and even a coral castle. And as if that were not enough, the mapping project has triangulated by crossing real-world data with the captures that Lucia's prison is just on the outskirts of Hamlet. We also know from the official website, and this is literal, that a gang operates in the south of Vice City, whose compound we can raid with the ultimate addition to take special items and contraband. It describes it as one of the loudest and most socially active gangs in the South Side. It is the first official mention of that faction, and although we do not know its exact location, the general area is clear. And near Hamlet, to the southwest, the mapping project places Vice City International Airport, consistent with the real one, which handles over 50 million passengers a year and is the main gateway between the United States and Latin America. And now, connect this. In 2022, internal Rockstar sources told journalist Jason Schreier that the plan was to expand the map after launch. An airport of that caliber on the edge of the map is not just decoration, it could be a gateway. To where? Nobody knows, but we might need a plane to find out. Oh, and one final fact for your next dinner party. That giant Miami airport sign you have seen in dozens of movies does not exist. It is a prop. The real airport has no such sign on the road, but productions have used it for decades, and the public took it as real. And it turns out one of the official GTA 6 screenshots shows exactly that sign, redecorated with the Vice City brand, Rockstar parodying a lie that cinema turned into truth. If that doesn't sum up the entire philosophy of this saga, I don't know what does. And this is just Vice City. North of the county line, an entire other territory awaits, with its possible version of Fort Lauderdale and its Venetian-inspired canals, and perhaps even that giant guitar-shaped casino hotel you are already imagining. But that is another story. What I want you to take away today is this. There are just over 4 months left until November 19th. Rockstar's major marketing campaign is about to kick off, as confirmed by Take-Two itself, and everything we have reviewed today is weeks away from being confirmed, corrected, or blown to pieces by the next trailer. Save this analysis, because when you step into Ocean Beach for the first time and recognize every corner before turning it, you will understand what Rockstar has been building for 12 years. They are not making a map. They are stealing an entire city, and we are going to be their accomplices.